The Pile of Junk by Miriam Schlein. Pictures by Harvey Weiss. Once there was a woman, and she had a lot of junk in her house. Things that she never used. Dishes with cracks, cups with no handles, spools with no thread on them, a mop handle, an old rubber tire. She had a pail with no bottom to it. Now what can you do with a thing like that? There were things that once upon a time had been useful, but now, well, they were just junk.
This house would be so much prettier without all this junk around. I should do a clean sweep and throw it all out. I've never painted anything purple, and I never will. Out it goes. A rubber tire? I don't even have a car. Out it goes.
The old dishes, cracked cups, odd jars, and the rest she just dumped in front of the house, by the side of the road. There everything lay in a big pile of junk.
Well, it's a terrible looking mess, but I'll clean it up later.
Then she went inside and got busy cleaning her house. Meanwhile, along the road came two boys.
Wow, look, a pile of junk. We should go look. Yeah.
They pushed the crockery jars and spools aside and ran off rolling the tire. The pile of junk got a little smaller. It was not long before three girls came along, laughing and skipping from out of the woods and down the road, carrying in their arms huge bunches of the first wildflowers.
I wish we had a vase for our flowers.
Just then, they came around the bend and saw the pile of junk.
But look! An old jar like my mother uses for pickling pickles. But it has no top. What good is it?
There's three of them. We can each have them. We can use them as vases.
But they're not pretty.
Look, there's some purple paint.
They looked at each other, and they knew what they would do.
I'm gonna make my vase all straight.
I'm gonna put polka dots on mine. I'm gonna put circles. But how will we carry them home? The paint is wet.
Like this.
She stuck her arm into the jar and lifted it from the inside. Two girls carried the jars that way, and the third girl carried the big, beautiful bunch of flowers.
So lucky.
Now the pile of junk got a little smaller. Not more than 10 minutes passed when there came a couple driving along who had just planted their first garden, and they were talking about how they could stop the rabbits and woodchucks and mice and birds from nibbling their lettuce leaves and carrot tops and cucumber leaves and the rest. Just then, his eye lit upon the pile of junk.
I'm sure nobody wants this. It's a scarecrow.
He hopped back in the car. And off they rode. No sooner had they rattled out of sight when there came along the road from opposite ways a young artist who walked with big hopeful steps and an old woman who walked with small tired steps. And the artist was thinking, "A pity I lost my palette while painting in the woods. Now I have nothing to mix my paints on." And the old woman was thinking, "The wild chive and mint smell sweet and fresh. I wish I could take the smell home with me." Then the artist's eyes fell upon the pile of junk, and the old woman's eyes fell upon the junk pile. He saw the old plates. She saw the old cups.
These plates would be splendid to mix my paints on.
I could plant mint and chive in those cups.
They both bent down. They nearly bumped heads. He picked up what interested him from the junk pile. She picked up what interested her. Nothing was left of the whole pile of junk but 7 spools. Ho ho hum, bum bum bum, rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub. Rock-a-bye baby on a treetop, poor little buttercup. Now along that road, pulling a long string and humming and singing bits and snatches of all the songs he knew, came a small boy. He did not have plans, wishes, or needs. He just went along and looked at what interested him, which was just about everything. So when he came to what was left of the pile of junk, he squatted, as small boys do, to examine it. He turned his attention to the empty spools. He picked them up one by one and strung them onto the string. Toot toot, he hooted delightfully, and he went on his way down the road, pulling his choo-choo train behind him. All this time, the woman was so busy inside her house, whisking away cobwebs, sweeping out corners, brushing and scrubbing, that she did not see or hear anybody. She had no idea of all the traffic and activity that had been going on right outside her house. That's how it is when you're working very hard. Anyhow, by now her house was as clean as a house could be. She felt very pleased at having done such a good day's work. But she was very tired. So she did not even look out at the stars, as was her custom, or lock the door, or eat a regular supper. She just made herself a cup of tea and flopped into bed. She was that tired.
Igual você, passei o ano inteiro no estrangeiro, batucando num pandeiro.
Now I'll have to do something with that pile of junk I left outside. I can burn some and bury the rest.
So armed with matches and the shovel, she flung open the door and went out. But where was the pile of junk? She looked all around. No sign of it. She blinked with surprise. Finally, she saw it pushed to the side were the paints. And that's all that were left of the pile of junk. For that I am afraid nobody wanted.
But I threw out so much more than this. It was a whole mountain of things.
She saw a lady go by.
Excuse me, hi. Did you happen to see an old rubber tire, some broken plates and jars and cups, some string and some paintbrushes and a hole and a bucket with a hole?
Dear me, no. She took her shovel and dug a hole and buried the paints, and that was that. She was not the kind of person who puzzled about things too much. She just went out back to plant a garden, and she never thought about the pile of junk. She continued to live happily in her own clean little house with a flowering dogwood tree where the catbirds sing. She lives there still. By the way, have you seen boys floating in a rubber tube, flowers in a homemade vase, an artist mixing paints in a saucer, mint and herbs planted in old cups, on a windowsill perhaps, a little boy with a choo-choo made of spools, an odds and ends scarecrow? If you have, then you know this story could be true. The end.